Good evening, everyone, or morning, or afternoon, or wherever the heck in the world you are. It's the one and only notorious, glorious ape himself, the one and only Optimus Primate. And I'm joined by none other than the man, the myth, the legend, the purveyor of great, insightful information, the one and only master of monetary mayhem, the Gandalf of gold himself, the Baron of Bitcoin, the Tsar of cryptos, the Sultan of silver, the Pathfinder, the light on the road to Ruda, the one and only Bix Weir. I think I'm over caffeinated, bro. I'm stuttering here a little bit.
You're better than me. I got it getting over the flu.
You got the. For those that don't know, Bix was relaxing in Hawaii. He was knocking back drinks. He was doing all sorts of wonderful things, including RVing, which we're not going to get into, unless, of course, you want to talk about that.
Yeah,
I'm interested in talking about that.
I always do.
Perfect. And then he comes back with the flu. Like, how do you do that, man? How do you go to paradise and come back sick?
Well, the first half of it, I was with some of my best friends in life, so it's always a party when we get together, and so we party. it was very
awesome,
very fun. But yeah, it took a toll on my body by the end, and I was like, oh, I'm fighting it, and then on the plane ride back, I'm like, oh my god, I'm sick. It's official. I'm sick. But it was a great time, a great getaway from the reality of market manipulation, behind the scenes battles, all the stuff kind of flowed out of my brain and into a Mai Tai. So it was well needed. But also when I was over there, I hooked up with Dick Allgaier, he's actually on the Big Island, I think, and he flew over to Maui to hang out for a day and discuss some work we're doing together on remote viewing of the Grand Canyon. All those secrets. Yeah. Unbelievable results. And he's putting together kind of a mini documentary on kind of the things that were the results of a few things that I suggested he look for. And in those not familiar with remote viewing, it's completely blind. He didn't know. He didn't even know me before we started this thing. And through a third party, I had reached out and said, hey, could you have Dick and his team remote view this specific target that I've been studying, and I want to know more about it and see what the remote viewers come up with. And they came up with just kind of earth-shattering results. But that's the funny thing about earth-shattering results in our day and age is like, to me, it gets back to the Seagraves, Peggy and Sterling Seagrave, who wrote Yamashita's Gold, or Gold Warriors is the name of their book. Yeah, they spent their whole lives researching and documenting all these massive amount of gold hidden in the Philippines, over 300,000 tons of gold hidden in these caves in the Philippines. They have so much evidence and so many official documents, congressional testimony, court testimony, you name it. There's just such a massive amount of documentation proving that this is the real deal, that all these caves in the Philippines were the real deal. And yet, the world just kind of brushes it off. And you still got the gold bugs out there saying there's only 190,000 tons of gold that's ever been mined. It's just insane how they spent their whole life proving beyond a shadow of a doubt that this is a real deal. And yet, what was it really good for? The world just blows it off. And how does it change anything? It changed a few people like myself. It made me open my eyes to the fact that gold is not as scarce a resource as they say it is. But it's one of those things that the many mysteries that people research and find all the documents and prove it, but it's not accepted in the mainstream media because it doesn't fit the narrative. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of where we get back to what was going on in the Grand Canyon in the early 1900s, there are massive amounts of facts and documents about both gold in the Grand Canyon and an advanced civilization that lived there. And, you go back in the Hopi the Hopi stories of where they came from. They came from underground and underground caverns, and where they lived for years with what they call the ant people. And we discovered this stuff years and years and years ago. And it was even in the front page of the Arizona Gazette, but even though this area is off limits, and so many areas in the Grand Canyon are off limits, and you're not allowed to go there, but the Smithsonian and the U.S. Geological Society have been there for years and have constructed bases in the Grand Canyon, and the military's in the Grand Canyon, but nobody's allowed to talk about it. We're allowed to stand on the cliff and look over and say, wow, isn't it beautiful? That's all we're allowed to do. And that's what really got me going, and proving some of the stuff that is in the Grand Canyon that we are not allowed to discuss or talk about because it doesn't fit the narrative, is what I'm working on with Dick Allgaier and the remote viewing guys. And I had some questions that they, did a blind remote viewing and came out with just spectacular answers. And it really does dive deeper and deeper into whether or not, can we build the pyramids today? What were these civilizations around the world building temples and pyramids on every continent, especially what's going on down in Antarctica right now, the discoveries that are going on. Why aren't we allowed to know about this stuff? And it is real, and has been proven not only with your own eyes. I mean, I've been to Machu Picchu. I've seen the Sun Temple at Cusco. I know we can't build that today. How come they were able to do it thousands of years ago without any tools at all? So what we're taught in schools is a lie. What we're taught in the media is a lie. And hopefully when we get past this transition out from under the control of the deep state and all that, we will be able to understand these truths and say, oh my God, the world is very different than what I thought it was.
Let's get into some of those things that you just mentioned. Let's talk about some of these.
What didn't I mention? I mentioned so many.
You did. But let's delve a little deeper into these Grand Canyon secrets. What specifically are you willing to share with us in terms of what was viewed?
Well, I don't want to give too much away, but
no, don't give too much away. Just pepper us.
What I wanted to do is, because there's all kinds of critics of remote viewing, and from everything from no, it's all crap, it's fake, and behind the scenes they already know the target and things like that, which they don't. I'll guarantee you that. But it's also a possibility that they're just reading the minds of the person that is putting up the target, type of thing. Yeah. So it's not really seeing into the future and in specific places or the past specific places, but it's actually just trying to read the minds of who put the subject in there. I don't think that's either, because there's been tests done that would be impossible. You take 1,000 pictures and you pick one blindly, so nobody knows what it is, but psychically they know it. But the specifics into the target, I wanted to go back to the first person. The first person outside of the Hopi that we could really target in on and say, what did this person see when he found this place in the Grand Canyon? And so historically, I go back into all these records, and there was an old prospector named Seth Tanner. Mm-hmm. And Seth Tanner was a Mormon who was sent to that area, and you can find all these places in the Grand Canyon now named after Seth Tanner's Tanner Trail, Tanner Trading Posts, and things like that. But Seth Tanner supposedly had a trading post just outside of the confluence of the Colorado River and the Little Colorado River. He was supposedly took some Indian wives, so he got in with the Hopi. He spoke their language. And he discovered a secret underground city with the caves and the artifacts and all this stuff, but we didn't really know what it was. The Hopi found him, blinded him. They would usually kill people who found their underground city, but they blinded him, and that's and after that, it was always people would take Seth Tanner as a guide to try to find the spot that he found. So he was known as the blind guide in like the early 1900s. So that was my target. My target was Seth. Didn't even say his name. It was a picture of Seth Tanner, and after he'd been blinded. So it's an old picture of him. And my question was, what did he see that caused him to become blind? And that was put into a process with the remote viewing, such that the guy who put the target together didn't know what it was, but he put the coordinates together. It was given to Dick Allgaier and his group, and they came up with all they had is numbers. It's like two sets of numbers, 4-digit numbers each, and it was unbelievable what the results came out. So they sit there with number 8734569, whatever it was, and they do a remote viewing on it, going through the whole process of a remote viewing. If you're not familiar with remote viewing, check out it's kind of like the movie The Men Who Stare at Goats.
Sure.
And but if you do more research into it, it was a military that was protocol. True. Yeah, it's and the results are, I mean, whether it's psychic ability or if it's they can bilocate or whatever it is, it works to an extent if you're trained and you're good enough at it. And Dick is one of the best in the world, and he was trained by military guys. So yeah, this is it was a real deal. But the results came back. Not only did Dick absolutely nail where the target, what was in my mind of that target, but so much more detail of what was in that underground. And I'm not talking about there's a cave and there's a room. I'm talking about miles of caves, and there's a room. Miles of corridors and worship areas. Jeez. and supposedly up to 50,000 people could have lived there. And this is all man-made. These aren't natural caves. They're all man-made or intelligently made, shall we say. That we can't do that today, much less back in the early, it was discovered in about 1906, 1907, and then it hit the papers in 1909, I think. Wow. After the Smithsonian was already there, and they were artifacting and they're recording everything, and they're removing a lot of it. Yeah. So everybody's, to me today, like, well, why don't we go, if you know where it is, which I kind of know where it is now. If you know where it is, why don't you go? And I'd say a few things. One, supposedly it's the outside of it's been camouflaged, and it's in the side of a canyon wall. So it's very easy to. There was a very narrow walkway to get up there, kind of through the cracks in the cliff, with some stairs. Is how the original Seth Tanner, and then later it was a guy named G.E. Kincaid and this guy from the Smithsonian called Jordan had found it, and that was later. But Seth Tanner found it in the late 1800s. And the Smithsonian guys found it and started archiving it in about 1907, 1908. And they literally, even in the original articles in the Arizona Gazette, they said that this is government property now, which is true. And because there was all kinds of interest in the Grand Canyon after they found this, and as well as the gold in the Grand Canyon that was announced in 1912. And then Woodrow Wilson basically locked up the Grand Canyon for no mining after they shut down the gold mining prospects in the Grand Canyon. And it has been locked there.
That's because it's a very rare and endangered beetle that lives there. That's why they shut it all down.
No, that's Dianne Feinstein and why she's locked up 40% of the California land. that's the Desert Wildlife Preserve. The amazing thing is when California says, we're going to secede from the union, we're out of here. The federal government owns 41% of the land in California.
Yeah.
So yeah, they can secede, but the government owns all the valuable stuff in California. Except they can, California can keep Facebook and Twitter and Google.
Speaking of, secrets. What about the Zuck? What did you think about the Zuck testimony yesterday?
Doesn't Zuckerberg look like the Star Trek guy Data?
Yes, he looks like Data.
It looks exactly like him. And not only that, he talks like him and he acts like him.
He's so devoid of emotion. Have you seen him just sitting there just like...
He doesn't look human.
He doesn't look human. He looks so fake.
Yeah. And then he walked away from, he took his little break and he left all his cheat sheet notes on the table and the reporters are taking pictures of it. And everything he said was a canned answer.
It was. Did you also see the 4-inch thick cushion they put on the chair to make him look bigger? Because he's only like 5'6".
I didn't see that.
Oh yeah, there's pictures of that circulating the interwebs right now. There's like his team didn't want him to look small and diminutive, so they propped him up on cushions.
Hey, I can't. I'm 5'6". I can't say anything. I would say, I want 2 phone books right under my butt, right here.
How tall are you?
I'm 5'6". I'm a little guy.
Oh, you're adorable, man.
I know. But my son's kicking butt in Europe in soccer. I'm
holy.
Just,
that's right. You've given birth to the next David Beckham over here.
So okay, here's a good one.
Next Cristiano.
Yeah, I may have. I swear to God, he's got 2 tryouts with Premier League teams one in France and one in Belgium.
Wow.
And because he was on this tour for the last couple of weeks, and then he was like the only guy who got 2 callbacks, and so he's flying out there to literally try out for professional European soccer teams. So I'm like, holy moly!
How old was your kid?
He just turned 19 yesterday.
Wow, that's amazing, bro. I hope he gets it.
I do too. He will.
It's life changing.
It's his it's his goal and dream, and that's weird. When we get onto something, we have a hard time of just half-assing it. We got to go full bore.
Yeah.
So he's been doing this his whole life, and I'm like, come on, you can play for a college in the U.S. He's like, Dad, that's not real football. He calls it football.
Yeah.
He goes, if I'm gonna play, I'm gonna play for the best in the world, and he's got dual citizenship, so he's got an English passport as well.
That's right. Wow.
So he can play in Europe, which is a big deal. I didn't know it was such a big deal. But I guess it is a job, and you need a working visa and all that. So even some of the best players in the world can't really can't join some of these teams because they don't have a EU passport.
Dude, that's epic. I hope he gets it, and whoever he lands with. Who's his favorite squad? Who's his favorite
Liverpool.
Club?
Liverpool by far. His mom's from Northern England. He's bled Liverpool red since the day he was born.
Wow.
So yeah, he sees a good kid, and he'll do very well either in. See, that's the other thing. If he signs a European professional contract, all the college scholarships go away because you can't have played professionally. But he didn't want to go to college anyway. He could have. Anyone he wanted.
Not to waste his time.
Yeah.
Let him get into a league. Let him make tens of millions of euros. And set aside, then he could learn whatever. He can learn from you develop some sort of business, man. He can learn from you and start up some business. He's fine. Don't waste his time.
I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about him.
Yeah, he's set. The guy, I mean, he can really take off, where his grandkids don't even have to work, man.
True. And I'm trying to get him into cryptos. He's like, Dad, that's your thing. I go, it's going to be your thing too, because you're going to be paid in cryptos one day.
Yeah. Well, when that happens, just help him out with that. But other than that, just let him rock, dude. He's been rocking since he was born, so here he is.
I know. And then I said, okay, so if the national team, the U.S. national team comes calling, what would you do?
Don't play for the U.S. national team. They're terrible.
He wouldn't. I don't think he would. He'd rather play for England.
It's like playing for the Cincinnati Bengals back in the 90s. A high school JV team could have beat the Bengals in the 90s. It was so bad.
I know. I said, well, if the U.S., if you had, because he can play for either national team. He can play for the U.S. or he can play for England. And And I go, well, if you had to make a choice, he says, England by far.
Of course. As long as it doesn't wind up on a reality show like The Footballers' Wives or something like that.
Yeah, really.
Yeah,
So yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting times for everybody out there.
It really is exciting times, man. You know. Back to Zuck. What did you learn about Zuck? Aside from the fact that he is confirmed to be an android.
He is confirmed Android. I think the social media companies have been lying so long about everything, about stealing your data, but mainly about the amount of views and importance of those views for advertisers. They lie, cheat, and steal. I remember using Google Ads, and they'd say, "Oh, you got 50 million people clicked on your ad." I'm like, "What are you talking about? I got like 4 or 5 sales, and you're telling me 50 million people clicked on my." They lie.
Of course,
And
I
that's
mean, look at the metric.
they self-regulate themselves, and everything is a lie.
Yeah, it is.
And they've been getting away with it for so long because it was very small scale, and now it's so big that those lies, people have lost faith in the management and the reality of these social media companies. And now the government's getting involved, and they're going to slap down regulation type of stuff. So what does that mean? They're not that the government's going to be in there. I think a third party crypto solution is going to be the answer.
Yeah.
And a company like ADX is my big advertising.
Let's talk about ADX, man. I mean, especially with the shenanigans coming out, and people are aghast by Facebook. And I was watching the whole Zuck thing, and I was like saying to myself, people here they're losing their lunch over Zuck and Facebook. But what about Google?
Google's 10 times worse.
Ooh, 100 times worse.
Yeah.
Let's talk about how AdX, man, and there's a lot of people that's been talking about positive things about AdX. You mentioned it before I heard about it from anybody else. You mentioned it like weeks and weeks ago. Let's talk about AdX for those who might have forgot or you're hearing this for the first time. Go ahead.
Well, AdX it's a crypto-based company meant to fix all the problems that we have with social media advertising and data usage and things like that. It's a third-party crypto solution, and we all know cryptos are based on truth and honesty. AdX is one of those on the Ethereum blockchain, smart contracts. And the way it's done is that it removes Google and Facebook and Twitter from reporting, from measuring data, from the security of data. It basically removes them from that position, the position of self-regulating. It's a third-party system, and you buy ads through AdX tokens, and so Facebook and Google and all that would transfer over to a third party, which would be it might even be regulated into that business model, because right now the government's saying we're going to shut you down or change the way you do business, and that's why Facebook is freaking out. They make money off your data. That's the only way they make money. So if you can inject a third party, it's a win-win-win-win. And AdX, there's a few companies doing this. AdX is one of the bigger ones. This was an ICO from last year, and it's another example of a company that got some money to build a product and great management and had the proper idea and the proper programmers, and have already had some success in implementation. And once one of these big ones comes on board, it's going to just change the whole thought behind the crypto companies that were ICO'd last year. And because now's the time for these companies. They've had a year, a lot of them had about a year to write the code and implement and test and all that stuff. And AdX is one of the leaders. And I do think at some point, all it takes is one company to see this type of solution where they don't have to break up Facebook into 1,000 different pieces like they did the phone companies. You can inject honesty and a third party to kind of regulate it and use the AdX token as the token in that, and it's an exchange type of thing as the form of money. And I think With ADX, it was up at like 350 or something per ADX token, and now it's down to 60 cents. So it's just screaming buy. All the tokens have been destroyed by the manipulation of Bitcoin, and it's all been planned to kind of to jack it up from November to December and then crash it to destroy sentiment. But I don't know many people who have sold. I know a lot of hodlers who sit there and wait and say, hey, this is a technology that will be implemented and is necessary in the future. And the future is just screaming forward when it comes to social media and advertising and the fraud and the corruption that is currently taking place, and it's a solution. So yeah, I think it's a no-brainer buy at 60 cents or whatever ridiculous number it is right now.
Perfect. Where are we in the crypto markets, my man?
I think the manipulation is so crazily staged, and it's so obvious to anybody who understands how manipulation works. It started in November. Somebody or some entity, very large entity, coordinated with a lot of different groups, including the Mt. Gox people, to first drive up the price of Bitcoin. Is the proxy for the rest. So they'll all fall or rise in sympathy with Bitcoin. So from $6,000 Bitcoin in November, they drove it up to 20,000 in mid-December. And then Mt. Gox sales were timed and coordinated to drive it down for a month. And then the social media blockage of advertising in cryptos was timed. It's like every few days it would be Facebook, and then next week it would be Twitter, and then it would be Google, all basically trying to drive down the price of the cryptos. And then governments and exchanges, and it's like bang, they're all staggered, all coordinated. And the latest is they're trying to hold off until tax day, because a lot of the crypto people who made money last year now have to pay taxes, so they have to sell cryptos, and because they thought they'd be a lot higher come tax season. That's not the way the manipulators work. They want to inflict the most pain as possible. So they're going to hold it down past tax season. And then come May, I think we'll finally see the bottoming and some kind of more excitement in the crypto world. But until then, the manipulation, they can do a lot of things with the regulators, with announcements, with the rehypothecated exchanges. If you have your crypto in an exchange, you can pretty much kiss it goodbye when the banks start to wobble. Because all the exchanges rely on the banking system to pay their employees, they deal in cash. They have to pay taxes in cash. So if the banks go down, you can kiss all the cryptos in exchanges, kiss it goodbye. It'll disappear like it did at Mt. Gox, or get stuck in a bankruptcy like it did at Mt. Gox. And then, with the bankruptcy criminality there, they're going to value your crypto at the day the exchange shut down. So in the case of Bitcoin, it was like $450. And even though the price of cryptos has skyrocketed since then, anybody who held their crypto in that exchange, all they got was $450 on their claims. And then what happens now is theoretically, well, not now, because the trustee has not sold enough cryptos to cover all the claims. There's like 5% left, which is ridiculous. Could have done it right there, but that's not the plan. The plan was to destroy the price of the cryptos and to delay the inevitable rise. So where it goes from here, I don't know. I think the remaining cryptos, 160,000 Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash, might be distributed to the by law. It goes back to Mark Karpalus and Mt. Gox. But he's already said, I don't want that. It's not mine. It's the stupid bankruptcy law that has been dragging their feet on purpose. So he says, if I got them, I'd just give them back to the rightful owners.
Yeah, the investors. He's actually playing nice.
Well, he's got to. I mean, and people have a hit out on this guy for his life is destroyed. He'll never do anything again. There's just so many angry people with a lot of money who blame him. Although I don't think it was him. I think it was a planned maneuver by the banksters to make Mt. Gox disappear.
Very, very interesting, man. Very interesting indeed. Do you think that after the tax day, when the dust settles, say mid to late April, we're going to see a turnaround?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, but that's the thing. It's like, what's a turnaround? I mean, we're right around where we were in November when the manipulation began. The manipulation didn't begin when Bitcoin hit 20,000. The manipulation brought Bitcoin from 6,000 to 20,000 as part of the operation. So we're basically, up 20, 30% since the beginning of November. That would be, if you look at it, just take everything else out that happened. That's a nice smooth run for the cryptos. And, will it stay this way or will it get crazy again? And will they try another manipulation and drive it up to 30,000 and slam it? I do think they will. I think they'll continue this insane, Cliff High calls them crocodile teeth. And that's, some teeth are bigger than others. We just had the incisor driving it up from 6,000 to 20,000 and driving it back down. But it's taken a lot. It's taken a lot to drive it down, including the Mt. Gox physical sale of cryptos. We did have the Winklevoss brothers announce that they're going to do block trading in Bitcoin, meaning that the big money can get in theoretically without destroying the price on the upside or the downside. So there's a lot of changes. But the funny thing is, through all this turmoil, nobody's really questioning whether or not it's a viable technology anymore. Nobody's really saying...
Yeah, nobody is, except for those that don't know about it, really.
Yeah, but who's that?
I mean, like people that don't know what the technology really is. They just go on an axiom they heard from somewhere else. But yeah, nobody's questioning the.
But nobody listens to those people anymore. Like
exactly.
Peter Schiff. Nobody listens to Peter Schiff anymore. He's, how many times you say the same thing and be wrong for 9 years, and
yeah,
it's kind of like, oh my god, I can't believe he still doesn't understand what a cryptocurrency is.
Nope. They can't wrap their head against the fact that we are in the machine age, we're in the computer age, and we are dealing with the currencies of machines.
And we will require truth and honesty, and that's the biggest thing. And truth and honesty isn't in the gold market. It's not in the silver market. It's not with our governments. Truth and honesty has to be third party verified by mathematics now, and we can do that with the cryptos. But that the loss of faith in our leaders, in our monetary system, and our regulators, that's what's really driving, and what will really drive the crypto revolution is the loss of faith in our old system. And then you look at the new system, it's based on mathematics, and that's the key.
That is the key, my friend. That is the key. We're at the we covered all the litany of stuff, man. Any closing comments you want to say? And also, what are you offering on the private road?
I got a still silver Ruta coin. The best
I love
coin
that coin
ever made.
Folks, you got to get that coin. That coin is beautiful, man.
It is. It's beautiful. It's individually numbered, and just the key to silver now is, even the silver bugs who have long proven manipulation, and there's even people going to jail for manipulation of silver, and yet the regulators know that their job is not to regulate. Their job is to run cover for the manipulation.
Yep.
Chris Giancarlo, I think, is kind of like the Bart Chilton. He's the current head of the CFTC. Yeah. Kind of the Bart Chilton guy of we need one guy to fight the fight for the good guys, and I think that's Chris Giancarlo is doing that, but he still takes marching orders from the powers that be that are trying to control the system, and you can say you're on the side of the people all you want, but in reality, unless you pull the plug on manipulation, you're not on the side of the people.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, and I'm also giving away 10 Theta coins. Theta is going to be a good one. Cliff doesn't love it because the technology, he doesn't think it can happen, but it's one of those coins that if it does happen, if it does work the way they plan, then it'll be a mega monster.
Right.
And it's trading for pennies on the dollar right now.
Nice. Very nice. And with that being said, folks, I am the gorilla. He is the Bix. And we are over and out. Take it away. Oh, CJ's not here. Habit. All right, folks. Thank you all for listening in.